Once the secret agent is gone, Plunger Man's POV returns to normal. The scientist's toilet then turns around and smiles while giving off a menacing laugh. Plunger Man turns around and notices a toilet. The toilet shoots his laser guns at him, but Plunger Man ends up closing the door. The scientist seems confused at first, but then quickly develops another smile while pressing some buttons on his dashboard. A giant laser gun aims towards Plunger Man, but he uses the device to deactivate it. Then, right behind Plunger Man, another laser ends up activating and actually shooting towards him, but he dodges this attack and ends up deactivating this laser as well. Plunger Man then focuses on the scientist who is trying to escape. Plunger Man uses the device and closes the door. The scientist turns around and seems to be slightly annoyed at this point. He taps some buttons on his toilet computer and starts to teleport away. Plunger Man uses the device to halt the scientist's teleportation. The scientist becomes shocked at what just happened, but then gets serious and flies towards Plunger Man. He aims a laser gun at Plunger Man and shoots towards him, but Plunger Man uses his new jetpack to dodge the attack. Dark Speaker Man stabs the scientist in the head and lunges towards him. The scientist, however, ends up catching him in midair. Plunger Man then tries to attack the scientist, but gets pushed back. The scientist breaks apart Dark Speaker Man's body in half and then smiles. Plunger Man immediately flies towards the scientist to get a hit in, but gets caught in the process. The scientist smiles, but gets his glasses destroyed by the upper half of Dark Speaker Man. Plunger Man then throws his spiky plunger towards the left eye of the scientist. The scientist readies his laser gun towards Plunger Man and shoots him, but Plunger Man blocks it to try and prevent as much damage as possible. The scientist then focuses on Dark Speaker Man. Dark Speaker Man flips off the scientist, but as he does, a giant laser blast destroys him. Plunger Man reaches out but is unable to do anything. The scientist uses the secret agent's device to reactivate his teleportation. Before he can teleport, a group of Alliance members barge in. The large TV man uses his TV to suck up the teleportation energy from the scientist. The scientist shoots a laser towards the large TV man, but the TV man attempts to deafen him and blind him with the speaker add-ons and his TV beam. The scientist gets knocked into a screen. Some cameramen try stunning him with their stun guns, but it's no use. He taps some buttons on his toilet computer, which ends up opening the floor beneath him. He then enters into the opening. The TV man looks down and motions for the group to retreat. Plunger Man looks back at the hole and sees a giant scientist robot with giant lasers. The scientist aims his lasers towards the door and destroys it. He keeps on going until the Alliance members and large cameraman distract him. He turns around and tries to kill the large cameraman, but ends up destroying his lab in the process. He then ends up knocking down the large cameraman. The scientist smiles and readies his lasers to attempt to finish off the cameraman, but instantly stops. The puppet of the scientist begins to scream and eventually crashes onto the floor. Plunger Man looks up and sees the women absolutely destroying the scientist's toilet. He throws them all off and lands on top of his robot head. Plunger Man turns around to see the Alliance women ready to do some more damage. He turns back around and sees that the scientist is trying to escape. But as the ceiling is opening, we get to see that the Titans were waiting here the whole time. The scientist tries to flee but gets caught by Titan Cameraman. Titan Cameraman ends up frying his face. After he's done, he tosses the toilet over to Titan TV Man, who ends up crushing his toilet body. Titan TV Man then throws it off to Titan Speaker Man. He brushes off the flames with the scientist and stares at him for a second, then goes on to use his speakers as loud as he possibly can. If you notice, as he does this, the head of the scientist flops to its side. At this point, the scientist is already dead, but Titan Speaker Man has some unfinished beef with the scientist. He then repeatedly smashes his head onto the side of the building multiple times, until dropping him into the destroyed lab. Plunger Man takes off his lens and looks over at the large TV man, who has a tiny scratch. He then crawls on over to the almost dead Dark Speaker Man's body. He grabs Dark Speaker Man's hand and daps him up one last time. Dark Speaker Man's light begins to dim and his head tilts towards the ground. Dark Speaker Man is dead. Plunger Man looks up at Camera Woman, then redirects his attention towards an open space to the right of Camera Woman. The POV develops a transmission and recording error once again. Plunger Man stares off and notices the silhouette of Lucky Cameraman. He walks off with his head held low, as if feeling some kind of remorse for what he's done. Plunger Man redirects his attention towards a pair of green-suited cameramen who shake hands with each other. They face Plunger Man and their lights begin to glow. Plunger Man gets teleported to a dark room with the secret agent. He congratulates Plunger Man on what he's just accomplished, but after congratulating him, he hints to Plunger Man that the Astro Toilets are the main threat that the Alliance needs to start worrying about. The secret agent tells Plunger Man that and says,
There is no evidence left, except one thing.
The secret agent tells Plunger Man that he did not survive this battle, and even says his name at the end of his sentence too. After the secret agent is done with Plunger Man, he gets teleported back to where he originally was at, and immediately starts to malfunction. So it seems that the secret agent can do what he pleases to do to anything in this universe. He's essentially the god of the Skibidi toilet universe. Plunger Man looks up at Camera Woman, who's trying to reach out for him. TV Woman stops her from getting any closer since Plunger Man is in an unstable state. Plunger Man then turns around to look up at Titan Cameraman. He gives his final thumbs up and goes offline. The POV switches to a cameraman inside the cameraman base. He turns around to see all the cameramen give a thumbs up. He then faces the screen again and gives a thumbs up as well.